So, before anyone down in the comments section calls me a fanboy of either PC or console, I just want to let you know that I've owned both consoles and PCs my entire life. I've had a Wii, I've had a PS4, I've had a PS3, an Xbox 360, I currently have a PS5, and I've had multiple gaming laptops, but right now I'm on a gaming desktop. I've had a lot of experience playing on different types of hardware. I even tried out Stadia for a while. Don't recommend it, but I tried it. So anyways, let's get to the video. So with the new next-gen consoles out, people are wondering whether to get the Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 over a gaming PC. And there's a lot of pros and cons to both, but the decision is really up to your needs and what you want to do specifically. So I have a couple categories that we're going to get through today. First up are games. So let's start with consoles. So obviously we're going to address the elephant in the room, the PlayStation 5. They have amazing exclusives. Even if you're not into them, you can't deny the quality of the exclusives. That's why they sell. They're system sellers. They sell amazingly. PlayStation 5 has arguably the best exclusives. Now, Xbox's exclusives are they're a platform exclusive. They're not really a console exclusive. Yes, they do have amazing exclusives as well, like Halo, Gears, Forza, and they're coming out with a lot more IPs, especially with that Bethesda deal that they made. So PC has a couple exclusives. PC's got a lot of MOBAs, PC's got some PS5 exclusives, but some would say that that's just sloppy seconds. Whether or not they come day and date is another question, but for now, they're getting PlayStation sloppy seconds. But they're also getting Microsoft's Day 1 exclusives. Some could argue that's a reason not to get the Series X, but I would argue that the Series X's price tag is a reason alone to get it. So games-wise, for PC, they get all of Xbox's games and some of PlayStation's games. But if you really want day-and-date PS5 exclusives, obviously you're only going to be able to buy it if you have a PS5. Another thing is PC does have some pretty good exclusives like Half-Life Alyx. If you've never played that, you definitely have to if you have a VR headset. I would highly recommend it. So graphics. Now this one's pretty interesting. Alright, so in the past we had the PS4 and Xbox One, and their graphics weren't bad, but obviously you could go to the PC and get way better graphics like 1440p, even 4K, max settings, and it did look pretty good. So generally speaking, you would see much better graphics on the PC side of things than on the Xbox or PlayStation. Also on PC, you'd see much higher frame rates, like 60 FPS and even higher. But on the Xbox One and PS4, you'd only see games up to like 30 FPS most of the time. But things are different. Xbox and PlayStation, nearly every single new game that comes out has 60 FPS modes and even 120 FPS modes. So they are getting closer and closer to the PC side of things when it comes to FPS. The graphics, however, some games like Control can be argued that they're on low settings on the consoles. There is some difference on some games on PC nowadays, but really it's such a small, insignificant difference right now that you're really not going to notice. Now obviously you can upgrade a PC, and as time goes on these consoles will be more outdated, and the PC's graphics is just going to keep getting better and better. But for right now, you're really not going to see a difference between going from a next-gen game like, say, Resident Evil Village. If you were to be playing that on your PS5 or Xbox Series X, and then you were to compare it to the PC, really there'd be almost no difference. It'd be really hard to tell. Also, AMD's coming out with their own solution for the next-gen consoles for AI upscaling, which PC already has. It's called DLSS. So AMD's solution to DLSS will make the console's shelf life much higher. So down the road, as graphics get more and more demanding, you're still going to see the consoles keeping up pretty well since they're going to have some DLSS solution. Now, whether that solution's going to be as good as Nvidia's or not, we'll see, but that's just how it is for now. So next one, we have upgradability. This is an easy one. Obviously for a PC, you can upgrade it however you want. It's I'm not going to say it's easy to upgrade a PC because there's a lot of PC enthusiasts out there that just tell you, oh, it's easy, it's like Legos or whatever. And sometimes it is for some people, but honestly, there's so many things that goes wrong with PCs when you upgrade it. Now, I know I just triggered some fanboys, but I tried to do something as simple as upgrading my SSD, and it wasn't working out too well. I bought a pre-built. Yeah, I know that's pretty sacrilegious to some of you out there, but you can do that. I bought a pre-built. I wanted to put in some more storage on the internal SSD, so I go to put it in, and for some reason, it's defaulting the OS to go to that drive instead of the one it already had. So I couldn't even add an extra storage on the internal. I had to get an external SSD in order to do that. Even when I went to the BIOS and tried to set the boot priority to the internal SSD, it still defaulted to the internal SSD that I was trying to install. So you will run into issues like that on the PC. If you want to upgrade a console, you can't really upgrade the internals, but you can upgrade the storage pretty easily. All you have to do is plug in an external SSD or external hard drive, and it is that easy on PC. You could do it externally, but upgrading the internal components on the PC isn't as easy as some people were to make it seem. And it is pretty time consuming, especially if it's your first time you're doing it or the first couple of times. Another thing is consoles get mid-gen refreshes, so if you're into that, you could just sell your console and then get a mid-gen refresh. Saves you a couple bucks from selling it. But yeah, there is also that option. The thing is, with consoles, you are still bound to whatever mid-gen refresh they put in. Like if the components aren't what you want or they're not as powerful as you want them to be, there's still that you need to consider. It's not nearly as free as PC. And also, upgrading can become a hobby on PC. I know some people love to tinker on PC, like overclocking and stuff like that, but it can become a second hobby if you want to do more than just game. And I gotta admit, it can be pretty fun sometimes. So talking about the SSD speeds. Obviously PC, it all depends on what kind of SSD you get. But generally, SSDs nowadays, they're all pretty fast. Obviously, the PlayStation 5 has like the fastest SSD or whatever. You're probably going to load in 2 seconds before everyone else. But generally speaking, Xbox, PC, and PlayStation, they're all going to be basically the same speeds. If you get any quality SSD, just make sure it's not like the lowest end of the low end. They're all going to be almost the same speed. Now, PlayStation 5 exclusive games that take advantage specifically for the SSD, those games will probably load in faster than any other game you'll see on both Xbox and PC. I can't say that for certain because Xbox does have their own velocity architecture, but right now games like Spider-Man load in like 3 seconds. Even less. Like, it's insane. And that brings up a point with the game situation as well. Games are optimized for the consoles specifically, and they're always going to be optimized for those consoles. But for PC, for the whatever graphics card you're rocking or CPU you're rocking, nobody's specifically optimizing a game for that. So that gives consoles a leg up with shelf life. So heat. These consoles, they are pretty good. They're really good actually, especially considering the old ones could be really loud. I mean, I know the Xbox One wasn't very loud, but the PS4 Pro specifically was extremely loud and they could run pretty hot. Both the PS5 and Xbox Series X, they're really silent, okay? You're not going to be able to hear it. and they run extremely cool. Now, I don't know if you can hear in the background, but I got a pre-built PC, and just take a listen. Yeah, that's the hum of the PC. Now, obviously, not all PCs are going to be like that, but some of them are. Some of them are pretty loud. But I'm okay with it because it's really cool. Like, the CPU and GPU, they're like hovering around 50 degrees most of the time. Like, it's really cool. Now, again, you can get a PC or build a PC that's a lot more silent, but that's just another thing to consider. PC is all about whatever you want. All the parts that you want, all the upgradability, everything is all customizable. So it really depends on what you get. So you gotta do your research if you're either building or buying a pre-built. So convenience. This is another thing that I struggled with PC. Building your PC is not as convenient as people want to make you believe it is. It's just not. Especially when you run into all of these issues, like I stated, about the SSD. Like something as simple as that. And sometimes the RGB in your PC will just go out. Then you need to figure out what's the problem with it. Well, when I first got this PC, for some reason it was stuttering really bad in games and I couldn't figure out why. And then for a couple of days I just had to deal with it until I finally figured out Chrome was taking up 50% of my CPU, and then I had to uninstall Chrome for some reason. So it's just stuff like that. If you're really not tech savvy and you don't really understand tech that very well, getting a PC is probably not going to be your best bet, because there's a lot of things that do go wrong, a lot of little things. I'm not saying these are catastrophic things where your PC is unusable, but there's a lot of really annoying things that happen. Like your RGB's not working right, or you get Wallpaper Engine, which is a moving background program for your wallpapers, and then that's just crashing or whatever, or it's just frozen. Like, I'm speaking from experience right now. There's a lot of things and a lot of software that just goes wrong randomly, and you gotta figure out why that's going on. And it takes time away from playing games when you gotta fix that stuff. It takes away your time, and if you were to get a console, you just jump into your game and you don't have to worry about any of that bull. So really, if you work a 9 to 5, or your job is like really complicated, and you don't want to spend more time doing stuff that you don't want to, like figuring out why a program isn't working, or why something's crashing, honestly, a console's gonna do you much better. Sometimes I get home from working and I don't feel like booting up my PC and dealing with some of these issues. Again, it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes here and there it happens and it's a pain in the neck. Sometimes I just don't feel like doing it. Sometimes I just don't feel like dealing with that. And then I'm like, okay, I just want to play my PS5, and then I just boot up that. Now, if we're talking about plug and play, everything I said about a PC, I stand behind. But you can just, if you get a highly reputable pre-built PC, you can really just plug and play. You're probably not gonna find all these issues with your PC. I had all these issues because I got a pre-built PC with one of the new RTX 3060 Ti's in it, and it didn't have many ratings or reviews, so that's probably why. But if you get a really reputable pre-built PC, you're probably gonna be fine. You're still gonna run into, the crash here or there, or the RGB strip not lighting up, but other than that, I think you're gonna be fine. But if we're just talking about working the job and coming home, a console is gonna be more convenient friendly. Also, a console is the most plug and play you're ever gonna get. So let's talk if you're one of those competitive players, like an esports champion or whatever. Obviously PC, there's no doubt about it. I play Overwatch pretty competitively on my PC, and it's just an amazing experience. 144 Hz, 1440p, it's buttery smooth. You will never get as competitive on PC as you would on console. Now, I know Xbox and PlayStation do have some games that support keyboard and mouse, but not all of them are. Especially keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse gameplay, it just makes your shots so much more precise than using aim assist on a controller. It's a night and day difference. You will not be able to play anything competitive on a console. Now, PS5 and both Xbox, especially Xbox, do have games that do support keyboard and mouse play. And while those are good, a lot of those games don't have FOV sliders. They only cap out at like 4K 120 hertz. It's just not as good as an experience as PC if you're playing 1440p or even 240 hertz. So I definitely recommend PC for that aspect. So price. Okay. If you were to buy a PC, and you've probably heard this before, if you were to buy a PC today for the same price as the Series X or PS5, it'd be poop. And it probably wouldn't run any next-gen games coming out after this point, okay? It's just not going to happen. Unless you want to play on like medium or low settings, it's just not going to happen. The PS5 and Xbox Series X arguably have GPUs that are similar, if not the same, to the 2080 Super, and I've even heard 2080 Ti. I'm not sure if I believe that, but I know the PS5 is like a 2070 Super, and then the Xbox is like a 2080 Super. Plus, they're both going to get DLSS support. So there's no way you're going to buy a PC with a 2080 Super in it for $500. Plus, a console comes with a controller, and you need to buy all the accessories separately if you're getting a PC. Like the mouse, the keyboard, those are all separate. Unless it's a pre-built, those are all separate. So to match the new PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, you're going to be spending at least $1,200 on your rig. I spent $1,400 on my rig, which has a 3060 Ti in it, which is a little bit faster than the Xbox. But yeah, price-wise, you can't beat the Series X or PlayStation 5. At this moment, that is. So backwards compatibility. Xbox and PC absolutely annihilate the PlayStation. There is no question about that. I tried to boot up Black Ops 4 on my PS5 using backwards compatibility, and I just couldn't play any of the zombie maps. I'd get into a game, and then 10 minutes later, it'd just freeze. And that happened at every single map. And not all games on the PlayStation 5 support backwards compatibility for PS4 games. I know it's like 99%, but it's not all of them. And the PS3 games aren't supported on the PS5 either. Now, on the Xbox side, the 360 games, and I think it's actually all of Xbox's legacy games, are supported on the Series X. So if that's a big thing for you, definitely go for either the Series X or PC. Now, if it really matters for you, definitely go for a PC because you have unlocked frame rate and unlocked resolution on backwards compatible games. Because on the Series X, it's just running like an emulator. You're going to be playing it exactly how it was played on the 360. Some games have improved FPS and graphics for the Series X. Like Fallout has unlocked frame rate, now it's like 60 FPS. But on PC, you can play that thing at like 144 FPS. Like it's not a big deal. Like you can play literally any game you want at the max graphics, 4K, 144 hertz. Obviously, if your PC's powerful enough, but PC definitely takes the win for backwards compatibility. Another thing to say about the PS5, it's just not bearable going from 60 FPS to 30 FPS. So if you were to get a PS5 and then play backwards compatibility on like Far Cry or whatever, this is what I did. I played Far Cry 4 on the PS5, and it was running at 30 FPS. The input lag was atrocious, and it's probably the same on the Xbox. I don't know, but it's probably the same. Input lag was atrocious, and the FPS was terrible. It was running at 1080p. It was so bad. Now, if I go and boot up Far Cry 4 on my PC, it's going to be playing at 1440p 144 hertz, which is absolutely amazing. It's such a night and day difference. Like, it's almost unplayable on those consoles. Okay, this is a very interesting category. This is fanboys, okay? I hate fanboys for either console. I can talk about YouTubers all day that are fanboy channels, both on Xbox, PlayStation, and the PC side, and they won't shut up about how either they hate PlayStation exclusives, they're walking simulators, or PC players are extremely stuck up, or PC has no games, or Xbox has no games, even though they acquired Bethesda. Like, I can go on and on about these fanboys and how toxic they are. I'm not gonna say any fanboy in any camp is worse than the other, but some of you fanboys out there need to chill out. Okay, so next we have Peripherals. So PC, unbeatable. You can mix and match your controllers with either PS5 controllers or Xbox controllers or any third-party controllers that exists. You can mix and match the keyboard and mouse however you want. It's endless customizable. Now, it's not as simple. Let me explain. I got 2 Xbox remotes and tried to connect it to my PC via Bluetooth, and it just didn't work. Okay, this is one of the problems I was talking about earlier. Trying to connect Xbox remotes to PC just didn't work. PlayStation remotes did, but for some reason the Xbox remotes just didn't want to connect via Bluetooth. So I had to use a wire. Now the Bluetooth connection is kind of trash with the PlayStation remotes, but at least it connected. Now if you're gonna get an Xbox remote for your PC, I highly recommend getting that dongle or just using it wired. Also, the PlayStation 5 has the new DualSense adaptive triggers, and that's a plus for them, but I heard Steam is going to be supporting games with the PS5 adaptive triggers, so soon you're going to be able to experience that on PC, so that's pretty cool. And also Xbox might be getting adaptive controllers. But yeah, Peripherals, there's no beating PC. The customizability is endless. So I'm going to talk about some other stuff, like what you can do with a PC other than gaming, and what can you do with a console other than gaming. So you can watch movies on both. Obviously, there's going to be no disc drive from most of the PCs you get. There is a disc drive for the PlayStation and Xbox. Obviously not the digital editions, but you can play movies like that. On PC, you can play movies over the web, obviously. You can even pirate if you're into that kind of thing. You could also pirate games if you're into that kind of thing. So you can both watch YouTube on consoles and PC, watch TV shows, watch movies, but I'm going to be honest, most people aren't really watching YouTube on their consoles. They are going to be doing that on their PCs, but not their consoles. I mean, that's just me. But with a PC, you can do graphic design, you can have an online business, you can do video editing, which is what I do, which is one of the main reasons why I got my PC. Other than gaming, there's a lot of other stuff you can do with a powerful PC that you just can't do on a console. Also, I forgot to mention one thing. Games are generally cheaper on PC, I would say, especially if you go to third-party websites like CD Keys or Green Man Gamer. You're going to be saving money on games if you do that, but again, the entry price of PC is just really high. Also, you could be saving a lot on games if you buy discs from eBay for your consoles. I know most people like to buy digital games, but if you want to save money on console games like you would on a PC, I mean, the prices are generally the same. If you look at like Far Cry 5 or Dragon Ball Z Kakarot on eBay on the PS5 or Xbox Series X, the discs are going to be basically the same price as if you were to go to third-party websites like Green Man Gamers or a Steam sale. The sales on consoles are pretty good, but generally speaking, they're much better on PC. But really, the prices, my experience, if I look at a game on eBay or if I look at a game on sale on a console versus on sale on a PC, really they're around the same price. Like, it's not that big of a difference that some PC guys want to make you believe. So all in all, what should you get? A PC or a console? Like, are these next-gen consoles really worth it over a PC? Okay, so if this was last gen and we had the PS4 and the Xbox One, I would definitely say go PC. because 30 FPS is a terrible gaming experience in my opinion. But because these consoles, the entry price is so low, you can get games for cheap like you can on a PC if you get it a disc. You have Xbox Game Pass, which makes a fantastic deal if you play games all the time. You have the low entry price of these consoles. Like it's such a good deal. It's never been as good a deal as it is today to get a console. It's just unbeatable. But if you do stuff other than gaming, like video editing, like animation work, graphic design, you got an online business, definitely get a PC. That's why I got my 3060 Ti. I play the exclusive games on the PS5, and I play all the Xbox games and PC games on my 3060 Ti. Like, it is a really fun experience, especially customizing. I definitely recommend it if you're into that kind of thing, but the entry price is really high. Also, you are going to get, like, you're not going to get budget keyboard or mouse or headphones when you get a PC. You're going to go all out. I'm just saying. The prices, I paid $1,400 for my gaming PC, but I spent a lot more because I got like a $100 keyboard. I got these $40 speakers. I got $130 headphones. Like, you're going to go all out when you get a PC, all right? My monitor was like $300, which isn't too bad, but still. You're really not going to be playing on a TV when you get a PC. You can, but it's not. The experience isn't the same as console. You can put it in Steam Big Picture mode, but you have to manually put in games that aren't Steam games into the Big Picture library, and that can be a pain in the neck. So if you're just gaming, I would say get a console. They're really similar to PCs. You know, if you're really into competitive play, go for a PC. But generally speaking, for most people that just want to come home, play games at good frame rates and good graphics, definitely get these next-gen consoles. Anyways, that's the video. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you disagree with me or you hate my guts for whatever I said or you're a fanboy, please let me know and give the video a dislike. I just ask that you keep your comments civil, if at all possible.